Welcome to another edition of Cape Ann Today. Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day, begins Wednesday evening, the 27th, through the evening of Thursday, April 28th. On Sunday, May 1st at 3 o'clock, the Gloucester Meeting House and Temple Achavat Achim will host a very special event to honor this time. It will include the world premiere of a special commissioned work entitled The Grip of Evil, the Endurance of Hope, by composer Leslie Steinweiss. Mr. Steinweiss joins us today along with Susan Quateman and Amy Farber, who are co-chairs of this event. Amy and Susan, can you tell us all the details about what happens on May 1st?
Certainly. Let me just say a little bit about Yom HaShoah. It is a day to remember the estimated 6 million Jews and several million others who lost their lives in the Holocaust, and the memory of the many acts of heroism and bravery. And with our observance, we also recognize the many genocides that have occurred worldwide. The mainstay of the most important piece of the, I shouldn't even say that, okay. The premiere of Leslie's piece is really our highlight, and we will be ending the program with that. And I'll let him speak about his feelings about what he wants to and has attempted to portray in his piece. In addition, there will be other new works being presented. Stephen Bates, who is a local musician and silk artist, will be performing one of his pieces. And Abigail Reisman, who is a klezmer violinist, a klezmer artist, and lives in, both of them are local, will also be presenting a new piece that she has written, and she will be doing that with two of the other musicians who will be playing in Leslie's piece. In addition, we will have Judith Black telling stories, and we will have a few young people from the temple doing some readings of poetry from children at Terezin, which was one of the concentration camps, and perhaps some other very interesting readings that we want to share. And I think that covers it. You wanted to say that this was our second.
Yeah, this is actually the second collaborative Temple Achavat Achim Gloucester Meeting House Foundation Yom HaShoah concert. The first was in 2019, and it was called For Our Fathers. It was a kind of debate between a singer and a visual artist whose fathers, one of whom was a Nazi and the other had been in hiding in France. So this is the second one that was very successful, and it's been postponed because of the pandemic. We'd hoped to have it in 2020, and now finally we can have this performance on May 1st.
And it's important to know that this piece by Leslie Steinweiss was commissioned for this event in 2020. And there were donors from the temple who helped to make that happen. And we're just so grateful to you, Leslie, for creating such a masterpiece. It's really going to be very special.
So Leslie, let's transition to you. Could you just give our audience a little background on who you are and what your background in composing is?
Yeah, I started in music very young, and my father, which I don't think I've talked to Susan or Amy about, he invented the album cover, and he's known for that. He worked for Columbia Records, and back in 1939-40, he started putting decorations, design on covers, which hadn't been done on album covers, and it became a standard thing to do. It was an extraordinary marketing tool, and so And he loved music, so I was really always inspired by his love of music and his art. And went to conservatory in New York City, and met Stephen Bates there, who will be playing it in the concert too, and in our ensemble too. Um, uh, the opportunity to write this piece was very meaningful to me. My grandfather uh, came to the United States before the Holocaust, but coming from the pogroms in Poland, which was then part of Russia, and that was that always stuck in my mind as something very well, Fiddler on the Roof, that that sort of tells the story of that.
What year did he come, Leslie, and where did he settle?
He settled in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
and so my father grew up in Brooklyn, and I'm living in Brooklyn now for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of immigration to Brooklyn. It's a real melting pot where we live. But the opportunity that was provided for me to work on this was very, very meaningful, and a very difficult subject. I mean, a very difficult subject to write music about in any way. So I knew that it was going to be a challenge, and I took my time. Very grateful for the synagogue to give me this opportunity. So, but I took my time. It took me a long time, actually, a couple of months to really start writing the notes and the words, which I've written the lyrics to also.
Is there precedent for Holocaust music, for music that is honoring this huge, immense tragedy in the course of humankind?
I'm not sure. I know that there have been lots of films, and I watched lots of 30s and 40s films about this subject when I was doing my research, and I also read. I have some books here that I read. I read Susan, your grandmother's book, book of letters. The that she was your grandmother, correct?
Yeah, she was actually the inspiration that I had behind these Yom HaShoah concerts, Heather. My grandmother was living in Berlin, and she was Jewish, and she was betrayed by the second wife of her divorced husband. And she was betrayed to the Nazis. She was put on a cattle car to Auschwitz, and she committed suicide in the cattle car. So it's sort of in her memory, for me at least.
And you have
I shared that book with Leslie. I'm sorry?
You have her letters, Susan?
Yes.
Here's the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's called Before Deportation.
And her children were not with her? She was
No, they were left behind, and they were in school, sent to school in Switzerland. My mother eventually escaped to New York and then to London, where I was raised.
That's just unbelievable.
So it's very real.
That's such a real story. Yeah.
It was actually the first book that I read when I started this project. I bought it, and it's very I mean it was very helpful to me in terms of understanding the emotion of this whole thing that happened. I read Eli Wiesel's Night. That's a very important work. I read Address Unknown. I don't know whether you know that book. It's by Catherine Taylor, and it's a very short book, but it's about it has to do with what was going on then, and it's a fantastic read. Very short book, but very powerful and very important. And I read a lot of other pieces and magazine articles online, historic articles. And then I started writing, and I realized what I needed to do is get a sweep of the whole event. So to start with the rise of Hitler to Kristallnacht, 1938, and then actually, so the first part is leading up to that, and the second part is in the camps, and personalizing it. And there are two people that sing in this, and then the last part is the liberation and the people, the survivors, and what happens to them, when they get out of this situation alive, where so many people hadn't been alive, had died. And the idea that throughout this is some kind of hope that is needed and wanted and is kept in some way in order to move forward, because it's such a difficult thing to move forward from an event like this. And that's that's how it evolved. And then I started writing, and now we have the piece. And
So just a basic question, did the words come first for you, or the music, the notes?
For me, I write a lot of, right now, for many years, I've been just writing music and lyrics. So they sort of come together. It's a kind of a back and forth thing. I get an idea and a feeling of what I want to write about, and many times the words will come first, just maybe a trickle of or a first line, and or a melody of some sort, or a sound, something that strikes me as this is the core of what I want to write this song about, or this piece about. And then it goes back and forth. And there's a lot of editing, after I kind of rough it out, then inevitably the words change a bit, but that core feeling, it's really from a feeling that I'm working from.
So I just have one last question about this. And music is so visceral and so purely emotional. How did you feel working on this piece of music?
Very sad,
Yeah.
but with the understanding that I really wanted to get this feeling of hope, So, and that hope is such an important thing in being human.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Amy?
I wanted to just say that the importance of this event is beyond the fact that it will be an incredible and very moving musical experience. It's extremely important to not forget the Holocaust. And now that the survivors are aging and many of them passing on, there are not a lot of people left who were first person victims and witnesses.
Mhm.
So it's a very important opportunity that we are providing here.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, that the idea to never forget that this happened is so important, and that's one of the last lines in the piece. That we never forget. Which,
Well, how do people purchase tickets? How can they attend online? Give us all the nuts and bolts for people to experience this wonderful show.
You can purchase tickets at the door. You can purchase tickets through going to www.gloucestermeetinghouse.org. The event will be videotaped and put up on a YouTube channel, so you can access this through the Gloucester Meeting House website.
Okay, so the YouTube channel would be posted on the Gloucester Meeting House website.
It will, yes.
Later. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking about this event. It really, with all of the news we have right now, it feels just there are layers of significance here. But the obvious is we cannot forget, and hope endures. I mean, hope is what keeps us going, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for the performance, and good luck with everything.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.